Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of Musically Mindful, the show where I sit down with some of your favorite musicians, artists, and even some of your friends to discuss mental health within the music space. I have an extra special guest on the show with me this week that I couldn't be more excited about, honestly. He's a longtime friend hailing from our hometown, Marlboro, New Jersey. Now, again, a neighbor out here that we're living in Colorado. We actually played together in jazz band in high school. He's a touring musician, Berkeley studied musician, who you might know from his work in the band Flash Mountain Flood, but more recently as the drummer for redefining prog rock jam band experience Squeaky Feet. Please join me in welcoming to the show, Kevin D'Angelo.
Hey, thanks for having me, Mike. Happy to be here.
I genuinely could not be more excited about it. Like I said in the intro, for anyone who chimes into this is going to be a cool conversation because we get to talk about the last 15 years of knowing each other. And yeah, it's funny, man. We played together in jazz band in high school, and here we are all these years later, and you're really doing the thing. And now we get to talk about it, pick your brain, and yeah, really just enjoy the time. It's gonna be fucking sweet. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, me too.
Awesome. So we're just gonna hit the ground running. And when I say mental health, what does that mean to you?
Uh, it means that I'm getting a free therapy session. And but yeah, no, I mean, mental health to me kind of I guess just kind of encompasses how you go through life and process all the ups and downs, and then through that, how it comes out and controls your personality and how you're interacting with others and yourself, and like basic motivation for work, self-care, taking care of your animals, relationships, all of that. Your mental health is kind of the centerpiece, and it kind of divvies out how much you could give to each area of your life. So it's a ongoing journey here, and as we get older and experience more, the world changes, the country changes. I personally have been struggling with mental health more so than ever. Um, at this point in time. So I'm starting to dive into it and get deeper into myself this year because I feel like I'm changing and I don't know why. And I'm just like, what's going on? It's weird.
Well, it's definitely weird, but I mean, first of all, let me commend you for having the self-awareness to not only recognize that something is changing, but wanting to do something about it. Because I think, like you said, as we get older and as things change, we tend to go one of two directions. Either we ignore it and we don't pay any attention to it, or it eats away at us and it kind of proves to have even more impact in other areas of our lives when we don't take the space and time to address it. Um, so I'm intrigued to kind of dive into exactly, as much as you want to be forthcoming about the things you're dealing with. But I want to start all the way at the beginning and let us get there. And I'm curious for you, obviously we talked about you and I have history. I mean, we grew up in the same town and everything, but I'm curious how exactly music became an integral part of your life and became the thing for you that you inevitably wanted to pursue as a career also.
Oh yeah, totally. Um, when we were in high school jazz band and stuff, probably like that first or second year was actually when that like switch flipped. I think I like quit band in high school my sophomore year, and then I wound up joining band again. Um,
Dalton pulled you
yeah,
back.
he was such a good teacher that I couldn't go through a school day without band. So I think at that time I was looking. I felt like the clock was ticking, you're like halfway through high school or whatever, and everyone's kind of, at least in our town, it was a very structured path. Like everyone, our town was like AI generated, like everyone from Marlboro like wakes up, they're born, and then they wake up every day, and someone grooms them to be one of like five things, like a lawyer, a doctor, you know, an accountant, something like
Right, or
some
like
of
a
the big,
soccer or lacrosse player if you're lucky.
yeah, or an athlete. Yeah, you could throw
Yeah,
that in there. It's like the cookie cutter corporate, go to college, join a frat, work on Wall Street kind of town, because we, grew up right outside New York.
yeah.
So everyone was kind of set on their path like so early on. And, school was a bit of a struggle for me. I don't really ever remember sitting in a certain class and being like, I excel here. Um, and I don't even think that was true for band class because band class in school isn't really like music. You're learning the formalities of instruments and reading music and the language and stuff, but there's zero self-expression, or there's a lack of opportunity to kind of self-identify with your instrument in school band. So it's a really important thing to do, and it instills all these core music values in you at a young age, depending on when you started. So at that point in time, later down the road, if you want to get serious about music and you start actually going into the academic world of it, you'll have this kind of like instant accessibility because all of this groundwork was laid out for you by like a school band program. But aside from that, music was always like my escape that I would do in like my basement, have like a couple instruments in my drum set, and I was always just down there for hours a day, just like with my boombox playing records and taking drum lessons and crushing drum books, and my friends would come over and we jam. And one day I just realized that like I could go sit in my basement and sit on this drum set, and 3 hours would go by in the course of what felt like a couple minutes. And to me, I related that to success. I was like, okay, this is what makes sense for me. My brain works like this, like when I'm sitting in math class looking at a spreadsheet, that's not when this happens. That feels like an endless void of hell. And
Couldn't agree more.
my brain doesn't work. Like, and someone might have sat down and been like, oh, I'm crushing this. I'm going to work for a hedge fund, or I love numbers, and I'm always thinking numbers. Like to me, that's just the drums and measuring my own sort of self progress. I'm starting nowhere and getting somewhere. I kind of like pinpointed that around that age of like 15-ish, and I was like, okay, I can make strides on this drum set. No one cares, and it won't do it. And like, it's a pretty insignificant thing, and it's not really a real career. But for me personally, I think I become a better version of myself when I have that kind of concentrated focus. So I chose to dive deeper and deeper and deeper into that. And through the drum set, I mean, I feel like I really became who I am. And music has always been something that kind of centered my mind. And, you've heard me play drums. It's a pretty chaotic, full spectrum
For sure. In the
experience,
best
right?
way
So,
possible.
so that's like what my head is like always. And for me to say that's my Zen vocal piece is pretty funny because it's a rather chaotic environment just to begin with. So that was kind of the time period where I figured out I could grow as a person through the drums, because if I could learn how to kind of harness that focus that I use through music for other things, I could learn and kind of progress and expand as a person. And I think a couple standout concerts, because when we were younger, I started playing like dive bars when I was like in the seventh grade.
Right, right.
And these places would just like let us in, and whoever we sold tickets to, whether it was our parents or some friends or some other people in other bands, like they didn't, it was so low key that we could just go to these dive bars when we were very young and kind of have this time there, and then we would be
Hmm.
like kind of thrown out when shit got real. So I was playing around and did the stage stuff and was very used to that environment. And I got hooked on kind of climbing the ladder of the musical network. So I wanted to combine those things and see if I could kind of turn music into a business. Um,
Super, super interesting. At a young age, especially.
yeah, I don't know. I saw something there. I was out there on the weekends, like shaking hands and giving people flyers and selling tickets, and like people were giving us money to play at a place. And I was like, oh, it's kind of like it's this instant transaction where like you play, they give you money, and then like you network and play with that person or that band,
Hmm.
and then it goes and you want to like kind of graduate from this room to that room. And I was like, this is kind of fun. I like being on stage. I've always liked performing, and it just kind of spoke to me. And I think this kid, Michael Steincole, you know him?
I remember the name.
Yeah, he was in my Latin class in high school. He was like a senior. I guess the language thing, you could just do it at any time. So I was like a freshman or sophomore, and he was 2 years ahead of us.
Hmm.
But he was like, I think both years I took Latin, he was in each class, and he would just pin me as like the music kid because I had like a ponytail and would always wear like these band t-shirts. So he always had something to say over whatever band shirt I was wearing. And it
Name
was
five
first,
songs.
yeah, he was like, he was kind of like that,
Yeah.
but in a nicer way. He was kind of
No,
like
that's
either like,
great.
oh, I really like that band, and then we talk about it, or he'd be like, that band sucks.
Yeah.
Um, and that was like my first 2 years of high school. Right in the morning, I would like start my day with this like musical spiel. And I didn't really know him outside of school. And then one day, I guess he lived in our neighborhood, like somewhere between where you lived and where I lived. And he must have saw me like sitting outside my house because he knew where I lived. And he like knocked on my door one day. It was like a Wednesday night. He's like, get in the car. I'm taking you to go see Umphrey's McGee, which was like the band that he kind of held the torch for. Any band I was sporting, he was like, the guitarist of Umphrey's McGee shits on that guy. You know, or like, who knows, have something to say and somehow bring it to that Umphrey's is better.
Right,
Um,
right. That
and he
checks
liked
out.
Fish. Yeah, and he also liked Fish and like Radiohead, but there was another kid in our class who was like obsessed with Dave Matthews Band. So then that kid would jump in the conversation and be like, "No, but like Carter's the best drummer, blah blah blah." So there was all these kind of like jam band musicians being thrown in my face, and he showed up one day, and I hopped in the car, and our class president was there. This kid, Brett Nadrich, his
Him I remember.
because his
Yeah.
brother's your age, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Brett Nadrich was our class president. He was in band too, so we knew him. And he
Yeah.
was to go and like party with the school president on a Wednesday night at Umphrey's when I was like 15. I was like, oh, this is so weird. What is fucking happening right now? And I've actually listened to that show a couple months ago. I was feeling like nostalgic on one of the van rides, so we started like Googling our first jam band shows, and like we listened to my first Biscuit show, and we listened to my first Umphrey show. It was at Starland Ballroom,
Hmm.
and yeah, man, it holds up. It was really good. It's like probably better, arguably better than a lot of recent shows I've heard them play. And I was like, holy shit, yeah, no wonder I was hooked. I like was so young. I went and they like blew music open for me that night because as someone who was like studying drums for so long, you know, I would listen to jazz and I would listen to the formality kind of like textbook. If you want to go pursue music, you need to listen to this Miles Davis record and know how to play this style and know who this person is. So I had all the boxes checked, and I wanted to
Hmm.
make sure at that point that I was like wasn't pigeonholed into one type of music. And then I just like watched Humphreys for 3 hours touch on like every single style of music in one night. And the light show was crazy, and everyone was like smoking joints and passing them around and being friendly. at a place that I've been to all the time where no one was friendly and everyone was like getting in fights and being crazy and
Yeah,
throwing
Starland
beer
Starland
cans.
was brutal back in the day. I got my tooth
It's
knocked
pretty
out at a
intense.
Misfits concert there in high
Oh
school.
yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, I used to see people like pull out mouthpieces, like mouth guards from like wrestling or football and like go in the pit and like tear it up. And I'm a small guy, so I was always just like, ugh, this is crazy.
Right.
I haven't
Also, I'm not
crowd
trying to
surfed and
get into a
stuff
fight. Like I'm trying to
at
watch
a
the music.
concert.
Yeah.
I know, yeah. I was like literally never there to get in a fight ever. I always
Yeah.
wanted to see people play and like learn from it. You're kind of like a sponge as a musician. Like you just go and you like absorb someone's essence and then
Sure.
it like comes out and you're playing. So the more you go and kind of just like vibe around whatever, it just comes back out of your musical voice. So being in that venue, Starland, and watching it completely turn into a different world, I was like, oh, music is doing this. The power of this band's music created this entire environment that is like, I would do this for the rest of my life. I would hang out with these people. I made friends with strangers and like I was like, this is what music's all about. It is not all
Right.
about what I've been doing, and that and the combination of finding myself as like a teenager and having to kind of feel the pressure of like picking a path as a person all kind of happened in that like same time. And they inspired me, dude. Phish wasn't even around at the time.
Right.
So my drum teacher was a big Phish fan. He was this guy. Do you remember Eric Novad? He was kind of like the TA with our band class. He was there
Sort
sometimes and there.
of.
Yeah,
Sort
he was in
of.
and out. He would like
I
come and
blacked
help
out a
and
lot of that time and also blacked
yeah,
out a lot during that time. So
I feel ya. So I met him like instantly through school band and he
Mhm.
started teaching me privately on the side. And he gave me a big old stack of burnt CDs that were all live albums because he was a huge Phish head and had been to like 200 Phish shows or something in his day and was a great drummer. He, I think at one point almost auditioned for Umphrey's. He was in some sort of local Jersey band called The Big Delicious or something. He never would show me the recordings of that band, and no matter how many times I asked. But they would like play the Pony and like open for
Mhm.
Mo and Umphrey's, and they were in the circuit for sure. So he bestowed upon me like a one of those like big zip books that you
Yep.
would like bring in your car. He gave me one of those, and it had like the Dave Matthews Live in Central Park bootleg CD, and like it had LP 98 on there, and it had like Hampton Comes Alive. Was that
Mhm.
before the hiatus or was that after?
Well, they came back in '09 at Hampton.
Okay, there was some Hampton. I think it was before that. There was
Yeah,
oh
they
no, it was
played there
Alpine.
earlier.
There was an Alpine Valley Fish
That makes
record,
sense.
and I remember like putting it on and hearing them play Boogie on Reggae Woman and like Mike Gordon's bass tone. I
Yeah.
was like, what the fuck? Yeah. So that was like a
Yeah.
that was a cool moment for me, like back in the day, hearing Boogie on. So, anyways, all the bands were there, like from Cheese, Carnival 99 was on there, and like the Biscuits were on there, and Cheese, Biscuits, Umphrey's, Fish, Dave Matthews. He kind of just gave me all these CDs and there was like Steely Dan records and some other adjacent
Hmm.
stuff that was like jazzy, jammy stuff. But all that happened in that time where we met in band class, and I felt the pressure of like having to become an adult, and I was like, I think this is my thing.
That's
So
so there's
yeah,
so much to unpack there, and I'm gonna go into each of them, but that was a perfect segue about the binder that he gave you about a story that I want to tell you that I doubt you're gonna remember, but. So for the listeners and the viewers, Kevin is I think you're either a year or 2 years ahead of me. I
yeah, I think it's
graduated
just
in
one.
12. You
Oh,
graduated
okay.
in
I
what?
graduated in 10, so I was
Okay,
two
so
two ahead
so
of you.
2 years ahead. But when we were growing up, one of my closest family friends, Josh Leader, and Kevin were really good friends. So there was one night we were all hanging out, and his parents were pretty cool. His dad Mace was like he sold like weed to the other parents and stuff. He was like, they were that house that like everyone could come and hang out in the basement and whatever. So we went and we're hanging out, and Kevin and I, our parents live near each other. So we were all there one night and we're all just hanging out, getting stoned, doing whatever as kids in high school do. And I didn't have a ride home. So Kevin offered to give me a ride home because he was like, yeah, you're not far, like, no worries. And on that car ride home, you are the first person that has ever played me phish to listen
Oh,
to.
wow. Nice.
So on that car ride, I heard it, I got in the car, high as a kite, and I don't remember what show that it was from. I to this day have said in my head that it was Star Lake 98 just because it was.
I
But
don't know if we'd ever know.
right. But I got in the car and Julius was on. And we're
Nice.
driving and I'm just like, what the fuck is this? And you're like, this is phish. And I'm like, my sister is into phish because my sister's 5 years older. And we took that ride home, and you're like, we're gonna take the long route, which like was like we just drove an extra couple blocks for no real reason.
Gotta finish the jam. Yeah.
Exactly. But to this day, I have always been excited to talk to you about that. It's why I threw on a fish hat, because I was like,
Nice.
he definitely won't even remember that when we were in high school, like that was a pivotal thing for me because I knew what the dead was because of my godfather, and I knew that fish was a thing because of my older sister, but I hadn't yet like really stepped into jam music yet. And I heard it in the car and I was like, this is cool as shit. Like this is really
Yeah.
dope. And I remember I got home and I looked it up and I listened to all that I could find. And yeah, so you're the first person that ever played me Fish to
I
listen
love
to.
that. I love
Which
that.
here we are now, 15 years later, I'm 100 shows in, and it's just something very cool that I'll never forget that car ride ever. And it's just something very cool that you and I get to have forever. That like, yeah, no,
Yeah.
my buddy Kevin, who now I get to watch you on the other side of the guardrail doing your thing and cultivating your music and playing and giving people an experience that you're creating. I'm like, that's the first guy that I ever listen to Fish with. And
Yeah.
it's such a beautiful thing to be where we are now. And but some of the things that you said within talking about this pivotal time, number one, I'm shocked that there were kids in our high school that were like into Umphreys and stuff because
Yeah.
we didn't, granted, for people, we grew up right near the Jersey Shore. So the Stone Pony was pretty much like our hometown venue. So
Yeah.
obviously, Umphreys has played there almost every summer for forever. And then all the other bands have done the same. But it's crazy that that was something that happened to you in that time, considering where we grew up. But something that you spoke about, sitting on the kit for 3 hours and time passes. I was talking to Jake Brownstein about that when I did an episode with him, and he gave me this beautiful picture of how guitar was something that he could use to like track his progress. And he's
Yeah.
like, I could start playing in the morning, and in the afternoon, I could be like, I couldn't do that earlier today. So
Yeah.
in the same way that high school band was teaching us the forms and teaching us, obviously rudiments and making you practice and all of that, you were doing the same thing. You were using the drum kit as a tool for personal progress at not only just in your technical ability, but finding yourself too, which is something that I think is really interesting for a lot of people that, eventually pursue music, is that the instrument is really a catalyst to personal development and personal self-expression. So for you, it's exactly the same. And I'm intrigued because of how you said, like it happened during such a pivotal time. Where in high school, you're finding yourself, you're getting out to you're experiencing all this at the same time. How did music, and then versus now, how did music affect you from a mental health perspective, both as a listener, an observer, a watcher. But then as you grow older and you become technically proficient and you start playing in bands, and now that you're playing music for people as well, what's the relationship to music from both sides for you?
Oh man, it's it still takes you back to that time like flawlessly. It's it's like a photo album of your entire life. You sit
It's
down
time
and
capsule.
it is it's a void. It's really weird, and I think we all are aware of that, right? Once you spend enough time in that headspace, you understand that either it's the frequencies or the body motions or that elevated state of your heart rate, like whatever it puts you in when you get into the flow, your whole life is like sitting there on your shoulders. And it was like that when you started. You'd sit on your instrument and you're playing music, but also your life is with you. So I would like go down in my basement every day after school, and I'd sit on my drums for at least an hour before I did anything. And my life would just be reflecting in my head. And a lot of this time, I wasn't even playing a specific thing. I wasn't playing a song. I wasn't playing a book. I wasn't doing an exercise. I was just fucking rocking out. I would just sit down and play whatever, and let one note kind of lead to the next. And I would always find myself reflecting not only about like what happened in my life previously to that moment, but also like planning for the future. But like I was drumming at the same time. So I was like, why the fuck am I thinking about like serious life accomplishments and direction while I'm like actively doing something? It's like your brain is like a hard drive and it partitions itself. So like you have like your life and then you have like your musical language and whatever you're trying to do there, and like both computers are on at the same time and they overlap. And as you go deeper into that, like from then to now, it's a very similar thing. And it feels different physically at this level. Like I don't feel my body making the music as much anymore. It just happens. Like the thought to command reaction, even when I graduated college, it was different. The past 10 years of all this stage experience and experience playing to bigger crowds and more professional environments, um, somehow the way I play a note now feels different from every part of my body than it did back in the day. And it's almost like the thought and the action are just so connected at this point that you are just existing. It's like thinking out loud. It's not how it was when I was cutting my teeth and really finding my musical voice. I'd be up there thinking of the mechanics of a stroke or how to execute a lick, and like my posture and all these things now are like kind of involuntary functions. So to answer your question, I hope that kind of gives some info of just like the difference between playing from then to now. And in terms of the mental trip of it all, you are definitely every show you play and every gig and every time you sit on your instrument, whether it's the main one or just the ones you play for fun, music, for most of us, I'd say comes with baggage, like life
Safe
baggage.
bet.
So depending on what you're playing and how, sometimes you're really focused and you're only like doing music, but other times, especially I think with improvising and this looser approach to music, since you're opening up, you're letting other parts of your life come into the picture, and they just kind of spin around in your head, and they affect your emotions as you're playing. It's really weird.
That's pretty wild to think about that side of it, like the difference in the, because obviously the physical, the tangible, the feeling of the stick in your hand, your ability to how it feels like the pushback from a snare or what have you. There's a really cool, I don't remember what the interview was, but John Mayer was talking about one time, I think it was on like Bobby Bones. He was asking him if he had like synesthesia. And he was like, I don't really have synesthesia, but pretty much the way that he explained it was all of those notes and all of the things and all of that are feelings. And like, I just know where it is now. And he kind of has the ability to, kind of lock into it and just go find it. Like he can, it's more feeling than anything else. And I love the idea that an instrument can really be a catalyst, or rather, it's an extension of you. The reason my favorite guitar player ever is Stevie Ray Vaughan, and the reason for that, not only is he unbelievable and it's just brute force and all of that, but guys like him, guys like Jimi Hendrix, and even Trey, with even though it's technically proficient, it's an extension of who they are. Like you can hear and see and feel their personality with the move of a wrist. For you, it really seems like the drum kit gives you that. It gives you a place to, not only did it give you a place to find yourself, but it gives you a place to reflect and experience who you are in your own right. And I find it, it's really, really cool to watch people that have a medium and an outlet to find themselves. Like you and I weren't best friends in high school. We hung out, we were around each other at times and stuff like that. But it's really, really cool to now have seen the progression and see where you've gotten to at this stage of your life. And, we can talk about the fact that, you are constantly on the road. Squeaky Feet is making waves in the jam scene. You guys are really you're on bills, you're on festivals, you're playing around a lot. How to navigate that is an interesting thing in and of itself. You said you're kind of struggling with some mental health things at the moment, and I'm sure that the impact of being on the road so much has something to do with that and just the logistics of it. What does life on the road give you? What challenges do you face within it? And what kind of things have you been able to develop to kind of stay sane through the chaos?
Um, we'll go backwards. Staying sane. Things I developed. I binge watching stuff. Um, like I think I've something that's helped me keep afloat through all the traveling and the shitty hotels and bad green rooms and stuff like that has
Yeah.
been just I like set a goal of like watching the entirety of One Piece, the anime. And like I started it years ago at this point,
It's the
and I
greatest thing
think
you could have said. It's the best thing you
it's
could have
pretty
said.
awesome.
It's the
Yeah,
best.
like
Ah, go, go.
it's just endless. It's like a static, endless, passive show that like you can watch but not watch. And there's a lot of filler episodes, and then when like the plot line actually ties in, occasionally you're like, oh yeah, cool stuff's happening. But you could just throw it on to tune out and disassociate. Um, I always started finding a show to either watch for the first time or rewatch on tours. And that one, since it was so long, just has been a very long arc. And I think I finished all the episodes that are overdubbed in English at
Hmm.
this point. So I've been like trying to figure out how I could finish it because now I feel like I really got to the point I wanted to, but I can't finish the show. Anyways, there was a couple tours where I was like watching The Sopranos or like True Detective, or I would just pick a show and I'd get download it on my phone and I'd just make sure it was there for me. So I would have this time to like silence myself. I think being on the road, you manage a lot of different energies together, and not everyone is trying to hang out all the time, and you can't expect that from them. You can't expect people to just always be there, no matter if you are or they have their space, you have your space. There's times where you don't want to be there and they're there, or you're both there together. You got to respect the life of six people at once, and
Hmm.
everyone's away from their daily routine. Everyone has no space. And in our case, and a lot of cases, we're in our 30s. We're not like young college, fresh out of college, like party animals that want to sleep on the floor. Like we're adults with very set routine lives that we like each wake up every day and like do X, Y, and Z, like walk the dog,
Hmm.
brush your teeth, comb your hair, like all this shit that you start doing once you get older. That, when I was 20 or 22, like I didn't give a shit about anything. All I wanted to do was like smoke weed and listen to jams. So
Right, right.
being on the road back then would have been a much like different dynamic, I think. Plus, it wouldn't have been taken as seriously because there's not as much at stake, or wasn't as much at stake for me back then. Now there's so much going into this because you have all these people balancing their fully adult lives, jobs, relationships, pets, you know, other musical pursuits or artistic things that they do. And then we just put all that on pause to just get in the van and go on Squeaky Feet tours. And we've been hitting the road for 3 years, like a little over 3 years now, pretty consistently. And our like mentality in the beginning was just like, let's just see how this goes. Because I was never like a big tour guy. There was bands over the past decade or so that tried to get me in the van and like have me on the road. And I always kind of like skirted around it, maybe did some weekend runs and ultimately I'd come home and just be like, yeah, like I don't know if I want to try to like build Rome today. I might just want to stay home with my dog and play drums and have like the musical outlet that I get to exist in. And that's a great thing about Colorado is there's like so much music out here that you don't ever really have to go anywhere. You could be playing 3 or 4 days a week out here to like a decent crowd
Hmm.
and be taken care of and feel that kind of musical expression. Now there is nothing like the road though. So I did learn coming from that mentality when I finally got on the road with the boys. I think Squeaky Feet was finally the straw that broke the camel's back for touring because it was two longtime friends who I met in college, and now we're all reconvening in our like late 20s, early 30s to like do what we wanted to do back then, but like everyone is as good as they've been at their instrument now, and we're all connected in different parts of the country from different musical experiences we've had, and like we all speak the language at a high level. We've all taught lessons for so long. Like the musical communication between us was flawless. So I didn't want to let that opportunity to make music with these people at this point in our lives like slip. So it's like if they want to go on the road, we're gonna go on the road. And to stay sane, I think you need to carve out space for yourself, whether it's like taking a shower 2 times a day or whatever. Like you just need to feel like a person, like you have amenities, watch TV, take a shower, go instead of eating the bar food that's provided at the restaurant or the venue that day, like go down the street and get something different, something exciting so you could kind of interact with the place that you're in so you feel like
Hmm.
you're traveling. If you don't go out of your way to kind of interact with the environment around you, it could easily just become van gig hotel, van gig hotel. You know, in the beginning we still kind of lean on people sometimes and like sleep at people's homes who want to put us up, and I definitely live for that. I love when someone wants to host us and then we go and they show us all their records and their posters and tell us all their jam band stories, and we kind of share how we all got into this world, this festival circuit jam band thing. So
Hmm.
that's really fun. That helps you feel refreshed because it's like making those sort of connections, turning um, a new person into a new friend helps you feel a little closer to home. Besides like FaceTiming your girlfriend and being like, "Oh, I miss you," you know,
Yeah, for
having
sure.
some because that helps too. But it's eventually it just is a reminder of how like you're not going to be home for another 2 or 3 weeks, so it doesn't get any easier having that kind of staggered communication. um, so you need to bring stuff out there like little totems that make you feel um, the same way you feel after work when you're sitting at home decompressing.
Hmm.
And then you try not to step on anyone's toes and keep the vibes up because
Sure.
you ruffle the feathers a little bit, and then everyone's spiraling and feeling conflicted about being away, and you just never know what it's going to be like out there. You don't know who's showing up. You don't know who's going to receive your music, or if something bad's going to happen at the show, or you're going to get there in one piece. So there's so many things that are floating around in your head. And one of the biggest struggles, I think, of a touring band that is overlooked because you really lock into the routine so fast, it's like you and the rest of the band are all in the middle of nowhere with your entire life's work piled into some van, so vulnerable in the middle of nowhere every night after night with no sort of real security net there.
Hmm.
And every once in a while, you have to understand that everyone in your band may or may not be freaking out about that. And you have to give people a little bit of space with their moods because we're all processing that sort of like, okay, cool, it's all fun and games when we're like rocking out and playing the show, but like sometimes it's not all fun and games when we're trying to park the van in a sketchy neighborhood at 3 in the morning and now we don't know, like people can't sleep because not only we don't have to go further into it, but that's some
Sure.
pretty devastating shit that a lot of bands have to deal with. So it's hard to like have people around you if you're the one who's negative about that, telling you to put on a face, to be like, it's all good, it's all chilled, you're on tour, everything's fine. And then the devil's advocate thought of that. It's like, yeah, we are, but also like there's all of our shit in this sketchy ass parking lot with like 10 people sleeping next to it and like that kind of stuff is stressful. So the road inherently just has so much stress inducing qualities that tend to come you got to learn how to process that and not take it out on your bandmates, which is easier said than done. So for me,
Naturally, yeah. I mean,
yeah,
it's I know I haven't ever had anybody talk to me about the vulnerability side from like the trailer being in a parking lot. Like I haven't the most unique thing that I always find when I talk to people about life on the road. Everybody experiences, the away from the family. Everybody experiences I'm away from my girlfriend. I'm this, I'm that. There's a lot of similarities. And a lot of them are things that only musicians and people that are on the road will understand because it's not a lifestyle that everybody experiences. It's not your typical level of stress in any capacity. However, the vulnerability side, because I feel like, and something I talk about throughout this show as a theme is humanizing guys that are on the road. You're a dude I went to high school with that puts his fucking jeans on one leg at a time the same way that I do. And, the reality of trying to understand that you're doing something, you're creating something, you're cultivating something while you're out on the road. I don't think a lot of people give enough credit to the fact that you guys really do just have so many different challenges to endure. And I find it super interesting to see, because those are always challenges, but equally, you said like there's nothing like life on the road. We talked
yeah, I
about,
mean,
yeah, I mean, we talked about challenges, we talked about struggles, but equally, what does that lifestyle give you? What is that journey and the freedom and just the adventure? What does that provide for you?
a lot. It's a real love-hate relationship with the road, because whether you like it or you don't, your path to pursuing music at a higher and higher level is through the road. You have to go on the road to get higher in your hometown, to get your name out there in other towns, like to get those experiences that we're about to talk about, you just have to keep going on the road. The road will bring you back home, but it's the only way to get music like this out there. We're not those kind of musical artists that are just going to like become TikTok famous or make some sort of video that trends and like changes the world. Like we're not some big major corporate music scheme sent to infiltrate every high school kid across the globe overnight. For us, it's a much more intimate experience based thing within our small community of the jam scene. So you have to get out there and you have to play. And the cool things about it, once you actually settle in, I think like day three is the shittiest day. And then once you pass day three on the road, then you're locked into the routine. Your stomach is like acclimated to eating and sleeping differently. And you learn to just kind of like take the day as it comes, and maybe there will be a cool pit stop that day, or maybe you're Googling a place that you want to check out on your phone. Maybe you have some old friends from high school or college or later in life in that town, and you're going to meet up with them. So seeing friends and family is huge. Getting to, go see everyone from extended family, like aunts and uncles and cousins, or mom and dad, of course, or my sister, to Josh Leader and kids we grew up in high school with, to
Mhm.
then musicians I cut my teeth with in college that are posted up in some town doing their thing, or they're off the road from whatever experience they're on, and they come out to see you. Like, we are in fact just dudes who are getting in a van and putting our pants on one leg at a time. And we're most of us are not in the van because we want to be in the van. We just know that like to make the music we're making, that's a part of it. Like you got to
Mhm.
go to work, right? It's like getting called into work on your day off sometimes. It's like, oh, I wasn't supposed to be here today, but now I'm in a van in Ohio, and that's where we are. And to play the festival that you've been looking forward to playing your whole life, you have to be in some random town in the Carolinas playing to 20 people on a Tuesday. And that might be the hardest Tuesday of your life at that point because, you're questioning your life's choices or how you got there. But guess what? You're in some random town at the Carolinas, so you could go to the beach and just sit down and kind of experience where you are. If you go with the flow of the road and just kind of learn how to be where you are and not kind of struggle with all the things that would be happening if you weren't there, like in your life, then you could really kind of hit these strides of growth out there where you feel still, you're there to play music and you need to focus on kind of living in the moment and being happy so that you can take that to the stage and share it with people. You know, different locations are huge. I love seeing different parts of the country. And through touring, not only with Squeaky Feet, but with other groups, I've gotten to almost go to every state in the country. And my 30th birthday, I was in Alaska and I played a show in Alaska and it was like the sun didn't go down for like 4 or 5 days. And we were like riding on boats at 5 in the morning in broad daylight and going to the North Pole and all these like lush little trails. It was really cool to have those moments. All the moments I spent doing van club bed led to like a sick trip in Alaska where I was able to be there for a couple days, only play one show and experience a part of the country that was like so unique and beautiful. So you got to like ride the ups and downs. And I love when tour takes us to New York City or something and we could go and hit all these cool spots before or after the show and see a bunch of people from our hometown. And I love that. Mark Klepner came out to the last New York City show with his wife, and he was in like my partner in crime in school band
Yeah,
class.
that's
So that was
funny. That's
awesome to
awesome.
see him. Yeah, you get to see friendly faces do it for me, man. And food and friendly faces and a little bit of nature when we could do that. That definitely shows me from time to time again. It's like I would never make the time in my life to go do this.
Hmm.
I'm just, and I may have been pissy earlier in the day, like waking up, getting in the van and driving or missing work and trying to work on my laptop and figure it out. But once I break out of that and kind of smell the coffee and get out there and go see the monument or the Capitol or whatever building we're looking at, like it is nice to know that forcibly I'm experiencing something that is fulfilling just because music took me to a new place and I'm getting to have this kind of relaxed experience. Um, so
Well, it
yeah, that's a
definitely,
cool part of it.
yeah, I mean, it definitely, number one, I've, and it's a common thread through everybody I've ever spoken to, both on the podcast and not. When that's your lifestyle, it gives you an appreciation just for life, because not only do you get to have these secular individual experiences, an Alaska trip, you get to appreciate that where music took you. But then when you get home, it gives you an even deeper appreciation for what you have at home. It just
Yeah,
makes you grateful. You know, Jeremy Kaplan from Dogs told me, he's like, when I accepted that my life was on the road, everything got easier
yeah,
because you're not static. You're not stuck in one place. You're not commuting to the same building 5 days a week to go work for somebody. You're experiencing the country, you're experiencing life, but you're also doing it with people that you enjoy, your friends, and you're making something and you're creating something not only that serves you, but it serves the people in the audience. You know, everybody, we're all going to concerts to find something. We're all seeking something, whether that's community or a release or a fucking night out to just go party and forget about what's going on at home. It's an experience for me personally. The most beautiful thing about live music, particularly improvisational music, is that it is 3 hours that everybody in the room is the same. Granted, on the sides of the guardrail, there's a different responsibility, there's a different thing happening, but everyone is feeling a reciprocity of energy. Everybody is there in the moment at the time just to feel, just to learn, just to have that moment. And it's a shared experience that once you walk out of the room, granted, you know, soundboards and nugs and all the things, but the reality is like once you walk out of that room, that was it and it's gone. And
yeah,
there's a beautiful simplicity in that. You know, like the Dead said it. Like once we're done with it, they can have it. And it's a beautiful thing about release. But a really cool thing that you talked about that we can foray on is, you know, on the road, it's the acceptance. When you can accept where you're at in the country, in a venue, in a club, wherever. It's a beautiful simile to life when you can accept where you're at, when you can understand and you can relinquish and you can release that need for control, that need for, you know, when you can just accept like this is where I am, this is what's happening. Now how do I find my flow within it?
yeah,
And talking about finding flow, you know, finding a flow with your band on the road, you know, it's you're not, and not only you don't have personal space, you don't, you're also worrying about incurring, it's a business. So you
yeah,
have deadlines, you have places you need to be by certain times. You're also, okay, cool. Now how do we also write music? How do we make time, you know, you're learning to compartmentalize the things that you can take into your personal life too. Like how do I separate, like you were talking about, two hard drives? You have more than two when you're out on the road because it's okay, travel, being rested for the show. What are we going to play? What are we going to, you know, then outside of it's like, cool, the business has to grow too. We have to market, we have to social media. Like there's so many parameters within being a touring jam band, especially within a scene that to an extent at the moment is like, you know, festivals are struggling to happen. Like it's we're in a very pivotal time in the world of, you know, it's funny. I feel like we kind of came in at the very end of like not the very end of, but like Phish came back and like that Phish, Umphrey's, the Biscuits, like that was like an era of time where those were all the most prevalent bands. Then we can, you know, you had Pigeons and other bands come up, and then now you have like Goose and Billy, even though he's not a jam band, but you have them, But I think for the first time, that other part of the scene is there's a changing of the guard. Like when I think about the bands that I came up seeing, like Aqueous, gone. Dopapod, gone. Space Bacon, new members. Spafford, new, like all of these bands that are either putting it to bed or changing gears or like now Compa is with Neighbor. Like there's so much shifting, but you also see bands like Dogs and Eggy and Squeaky Feet are all starting to ascend that ladder where, Umphrey's got moved inside to the pony last year. Pigeons is currently dealing with they just got moved inside to the pony. So not only is music in a state of flux, we are in a state of flux.
Yeah,
And the growth of young bands, I'm trying to like look at it with foresight because I hate the like, oh, they're the next phish, they're the next this, they're no, they're them, and that's all that
yeah.
they need to be. But I feel like there is a really cool swell happening at the moment. Maybe not in like the first festival tier, but in the second tier. All of these new bands are coming up, and a lot of them are really, really good. And I feel like it is going to bring back, because, everything happens in a cycle. Things get popular, they come out of, circulation, then people find it again, and it moves and it moves. I feel like there's a bit of a renaissance happening within the jam scene. Bands are changing. It's not your typical every band is trying to be Phish. There are prog rock bands, there are bluegrass bands, there are bands that are like whatever Krungbin is. Not that they're coming up, they're well established, but they're a unique sound. So
I
for
mean, a couple
you,
years ago, they were
yeah.
certainly coming up, like
Right, right.
yeah, yeah,
One plug from Trey and it's off to the fucking races. but,
yeah.
but for you not only being a fan, but also now that like you are working and you're seeing success, how do you feel now being a contributing factor to the music scene? How does it make you feel to be working and putting energy into something that had served you previously in a different way?
Happy. I'm happy about that. I'm happy to be here. Like that's like a testament to what Squeaky Feet is. We are here to like uphold that purity of like improvising and bridging the gap between music genres. Like all of what you're talking about is weighs so heavily on me and a lot of people that I know that are this deep in the game because like it's shocking to see the people that helped you get here at the tail end of their journey. And some of them might want that, others, it might just be a logistical business thing. But at the end of the day, it's happening. And what you're saying is all valid and true. Like the arc of some of these bands, we've seen, as you listed, pretty much three generations of this music scene live out. And we're kind of like in the middle of one right now. And this is
Hmm.
the worst one because it's almost like you have this thought on the plus side, on the positive side, what you're saying is that things will circle back around and think about all the new stuff that is starting to surface. But on the negative side, it's like, is where is this going? Like, is this getting worse and worse? Is this relevant anymore? Are we getting squeezed out by the economy? You know what I mean? Like back in the day, the jam scene was thriving.
Hmm.
When I was in college, when we were in high school to college territory, like all of these younger bands, like Phish had just came back. There was a huge surplus of younger bands that were like taking the reins and hitting the small clubs, and the tour circuit was alive. There was no Instagram at this point. There was no built in. If you're in a band, you need to be a marketing genius and you need to be spending 20% of your show's budget on Instagram reel ads. And, all of that didn't exist. It was really like a word of mouth, flyer your show, make a Facebook event, pass the word around, go to enough shows so that the people that in that town like know who you are and what band you're a part of so that they look out for you coming to town. It was
Mhm.
such more of a hands-on transactional based like culture where to excel in that scene you literally just needed to be in the scene, and it took years of networking and showing up to the bar that held it down on Tuesday or the bar that held it down on Thursday, and then there was the weekend shows that were at the bigger room in town, and you just had to be at all these things. And through that, you would kind of learn where and who, what, where, when, and why of like everyone in the jam culture. So like that era kind of came down, and then the newer bands came up at the time, which you were mentioning, like Twiddle and Pigeons and Aqueous, and there was that whole kind of
Mhm.
uh trajectory of that. And while we were on Pigeons tour, like it felt like I was living in 2013. Like their crowd and them, being with them for several days in a row and seeing the flock like show up, I was like, it literally feels like I'm in college in 2013. Like the way everyone dressed, the way everyone acted, it was like it never that they're preserving that time in
Mhm.
jam bands for us. And they put on a great show. It was really fun. But anyways, that whole era played out, and then that kind of peaked during COVID, right?
Yeah.
So that all those bands were really making huge strides, and then COVID derailed the music industry. And then post COVID is really like it's now we're in this day of like marketing and business. It's all business now. It's no more like shaking hands and like getting loose, just like listening to music. It's like it's so formulaic. So to tie back into that first topic we talked about sitting on the instrument and where that takes you mentally and emotionally. Now I have all that on my back, which I didn't have when I was first pursuing music, you
Mhm.
know? So that kind of dirty reality of the music industry, it sits with you at your shows. It sits with you in the van. It sits with you when you get home from tour. It sits with you when you're out on the road. Like when you know too much about something, it could become an ugly thing. Now, that doesn't mean it's bad, and it doesn't mean it's not a beautiful life that we're living, and it's still a community. We're still here, and we're still trying to do it justice at a very integral way of what we believe in. You know, we're here for the music. I'm not getting in this van and driving around the country because I like getting in a van or like I'm out there to party. Like I'm there to be on stage to play this music and to reach that headspace with the band and within myself and to share it with the crowd. Like you said, we're all the same in that room, right? So if you give us a good crowd, we're all going to take that ride together, and I kind of live my life chasing those moments of getting deeper and deeper into that because it's this surreal feeling of energy and adrenaline that like is addictive, and I've been chasing it for a long time, and I will continue to chase it. Yeah, because there's nothing. You could take me to the Washington Monument or some cave in Alaska or whatever, but I'm in that van because I'm chasing that unreal high of the connection of a mass group of people and us. There's nothing in the world I could describe that feeling that equates to that. It's crazy. It's a mystical feeling that takes over your body and you feel like you're flying. And I will chase that until I literally can't play drums anymore. But when you get on stage and you go to play, I hate to say it, but you're thinking about tons of shit that you shouldn't be thinking about, or you didn't know you would have to be thinking about when you started this journey. You know what I mean? Like, you got to filter it out, but this era specifically is a recession. It's like a jam band recession. You know, there's all these
Mhm.
new bands coming up, but I think personally, stuff that is unavoidable is all this media presence and all this the marketing is unbearable to me at this point. It's weighing on the craft and it's giving so many people a place to be divisive about the musical community rather than just like appreciating everyone who's contributing to this thing and trying to strengthen it and make it stronger. There's all this like this band sucks, that band's better. This band sucks, that band's better. And like everyone who's still in the community wants to tear it down from within, but they still want to be a part of it. But like, how is it going to grow if you're not allowing everyone to feel comfortable about sacrificing major parts of their life to contribute to this culture? You know, like if the people don't want jam bands, clearly, as you're seeing, jam bands will fade away. You know what I mean? Like if they
Mhm.
do, then and they just keep supporting, then people will be good. But the jam scene kind of thrives in those small 250 to 1,000 cap rooms. That, you know, everyone can't be a huge production. Everyone can't play Fiddler's Green, do 3 night runs, have a tour bus. Like that could happen, but it takes a long time to get there. And the the economy was so different 15 years ago. So
Mhm.
when all those bands cut their teeth and then eventually made it to that point where they could have the big production, have the big crews, they were coming up in a much different time where I'm not going to say it was easy because it wasn't. I mean, gas was surging, the economy was, it was still, everyone was like, the world is fucked back then. But
Yeah, there's
there was
always X factors for sure.
there was always X factors, but it was before COVID, and people were just there was just more people out. There was more
Yeah.
people out and about doing stuff. Businesses, bars, promotion companies, ticketing companies, they were all living large back then, and there was less stress of them being afloat. So now, like post COVID, the big rooms are still struggling to be open. Like your Fox theaters, your Boulder theaters, those places are still struggling to justify opening doors. And those are the bigger rooms in that town. The
Mhm.
smaller venues around the country are feeling it so hard. The smaller festivals are feeling it so hard, and the bands are also all a reflection. Like these bands ending their era are a reflection of the post-COVID change to our world. And then as that was happening, there was a whole generation of young musicians that couldn't go play. So the whole like people filming themselves in a room and posting it online, it's like that became the model of a modern musician. It's like, oh yeah, I'm not going to tour. I'm not going to be in a band. I'm not going to contribute to a local music culture. I'm just going to take some videos and post them. And then hopefully by doing that, I'll magically sell thousands of tickets at a bar, which I am very interested in. And I haven't really formulated enough of opinion, but these massive TikTok online profiles that have tons of views, sometimes they show up with like minimal market history and like blow the roof off a place, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes
Mhm.
the online media presence doesn't really stack up to in-person draw. So you could wind up building a night with a band that has X amount of followers and seems to have good buzz, and then they bring 10 people, and then the bar loses money, you lose money, they lose money, like it's a defeating experience overall. And I personally think that in this post-COVID era, there's been so much stress on marketing, production, and all that kind of back end stuff that people are spending less time in their music communities. And I'd like to see that change.
And
And
I and in a
you
way
know,
I feel like it is in the sense of I mean luckily where we are Colorado especially with like the outdoor presence of music, the free concert series that happen every summer, you know, at the big places like last summer for example, Dogs was able to play like Gerald Ford Amphitheater in Vale. So like I feel like for a band, getting to experience that feeling makes them more tenacious. But I also feel like for the crowd, being like, oh, this is what I can look forward to. This is what's coming around. This is what I can see.
Hmm.
Stuff like that are the things that put those wheels back in motion. And I feel, like I was saying, there is a bit of a renaissance happening within the jam scene. I feel like there always kind of is. Like there's always such crazy fluctuation. However, the big bands that were always, they play this venue every year, they do this every year, it's that is not in the same place that it was. And COVID was definitely majorly impactful not only to the business side of music that you eloquently really talked a lot about, but equally the emotional side. I don't think people credit enough to the mental effects that COVID had on people long term. There are
Yeah.
people that don't want to be outside because they're like worried about germs. There are people that, oh, well, now I've experienced what it's like to not have to be in a crowd. I don't want to be anymore. You know, don't get me wrong, the accessibility of streaming and stuff like that is a beautiful thing that we have in today's day and age. But there are people that would rather couch tour now than get out to the show, which
Hmm.
for a band that's trying to cut their teeth and trying to sell tickets definitely makes it harder. And I had a really cool conversation with Kun Shah from Live for Live, where we talked about how, or rather, my interpretation is that like the music industry is so much more quantitative than it is qualitative. And when you really break down those parameters of the business side, you know, ticket sales, merch sales, this, that, having to market, do all these things, it definitely, I can only imagine how much it weighs on the creative side. Because at the end of the day, like you said, you're not out on the road to become a businessman. If you wanted to, you would have stayed in the business program in Marlboro High School and you would have ended up working somewhere in Jersey
We already know
City.
my brain doesn't work that way.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're out there because you're trying to create and you're trying to build. And I think that was kind of why I said we came in this era where there still was like major prevalence with music community. Like
Yeah.
going to Starland was it wasn't just going to see this band, it was going to the venue. The Pony, it was like I'm going to the Pony, not just I'm going to see so and so. And around the country, especially in those small markets, you know, the small rooms where people are out less and less, people also with impact from COVID, a lot of what those major markets were have changed because people have uprooted and moved to other places in the country. You know, pre-COVID was Austin, Texas, like such a major entertainment hub that it is now with like stand up and stuff like that. No, California, people left, you know, so now you have like dying scenes there within both music and comedy. And it's the world is in such a unique state of flux, as is music, which is kind of this, it's always this interesting symbiotic, what's happening in the world is happening within everything inside it. And within the jam scene, you know, we there people talk about the whole reason that like the internet forums exist were to like start arguing about who's the best guitar player.
Right.
And now media in general, but particularly social media, has become such a divisive place to be. And I forget, it was on like Frasco's podcast recently. I think him and Nick Erlock were talking about, they're like, all the people that are like, my band's better than yours. And they're like, those guys are friends and they think it's insane.
Yeah.
So it's also on the part of the crowd and the fans and the people to, like you're saying, Squeaky Feet is trying to uphold the purity of this thing. Pigeons upholds the musical community, whether it's with the
Yeah.
flock or like Pigeon, the way they do Dome Fest, the way that they always have opening bands, the way like that is one of the things that I gravitated toward when I started seeing them heavily. I found so many bands because of Dome Fest. And now there are a lot of bands that it's just about the presentation. It's just about the
Yeah.
sales. It's about what can we how big can we get and big can we succeed. which is why I love painting, or rather giving the platform for people like yourself, that there's a purity to music. And even I myself, from the other side of the guardrail, I've talked about in recent episodes, my relationship with music changed for a while because I lost it being about the music. It was about going and being a part of the thing. It was about getting to go to a party, getting to do this, it was less about being invested in the material, in the musical material and in the moment experience. And I'm finally, myself included, I feel like people are starting to share music more prevalently again. I feel like people are interested in what's being created. Also, the amount of collaboration and cross genre, whether it's from mainstream artists down to the guys that are playing Toad's Place, there's so much crossover. And I think platforms, like there's comedians like Bert Kreischer that has like the guys from Goose on his
Yeah,
podcast. And
yeah.
like there's such like a beautiful, I mean, you have like Miles Teller dancing on stage at the Grateful Dead honors, and like music is becoming the thing again. And luckily for fans of music like us, those seminal bands, the Biscuits, are in a high point, higher than they've been in a long time. The Dead now with the 60th anniversary, like take the business side out of it, whatever travel packages, all the numerical nonsense, like those shows are going to be a cultural thing. And I love the fact that I think those major players and those big publications and those big marketing things are going to create the space for the music to fill the void. And I see you guys are a part of this wave. You're a part of this renaissance of guys that want to fucking play music.
Oh yeah, big time, dude. I mean, we're here to play music for sure. Sometimes, not to like jump in, but I'll just
No,
say like
please, please.
I don't even know what people want anymore. And like
Neither do people.
to comment on your like your whole stance where like I lost music because I realized I wasn't there for music. That kind of hit me when I was like 18. I remember like tripping balls at some festival in Massachusetts in the woods somewhere, and I was just like, I don't think anyone gives a shit about music here. I think we're all here to trip balls, and like I don't know what's going on. So I've always been living with that
Hmm.
kind of like positive and negative mindset of this whole thing. It's like, and I was gonna comment, like we could say COVID derailed the music industry a lot too, but I think fentanyl did as well. Back in like the heyday era, like you could go out and eat drugs from strangers and party your fucking face off and have zero repercussions. And then like slowly over time, it became like, no, like this is dangerous. You
Hmm.
have to know people. You can't, it's not just fun and games anymore. Um, there's a lot of there's a lot of vulnerability out there with you. What used to be a carefree party good time is
Hmm.
now like a life's just you're taking your life in your hands every time you go to like a bar. It's
Yeah.
crazy, right? So just adding that in, like, yes, a lot of people are not in it for the music.
Hmm.
Two, the partying aspect became a little more risky and people want to party less now because of that. And I think
Right.
that has is reflecting the health of our culture there too. And then to what I was just going to say, I don't know what people want to hear anymore. I feel like back in the day it was so this is what everyone wants. And now there's so much going on that I don't know. I see people on Reddit all the time, like, what is jamming? And like, it's like people don't know. People don't know what they're there for or what. So within that, I don't know what to expect or what I should be playing sometimes. I don't, it's like, what do they want? What do people even want to hear? They want to hear
Hmm.
songs? Do they want to hear a 30-minute jam? They want to see shit pop off or do they not want to see shit pop off? I'm confused, man. I'm
Yeah.
looking
I
to
mean,
you for guidance.
well, let me give you the recipe. No,
Yeah.
I truthfully, I really do believe that, and we know this. It's not like we're creating something here. The jam band experience and the drug culture are heavily tied together
Yeah, yeah,
in
totally.
almost like truthfully symbiotically. And as somebody that it can speak from experience, I just hit 3 years of sobriety. And part of me taking this relationship back of what music means to me and the purity of it is because I've been able to, in the proper way, separate the two. For numerous years, not only was I a drug addict for a long time, but also like music was not only created via drugs, it was exacerbated by drugs from both sides of the guardrail. And I think part of this renaissance that I'm talking about too, I have so many friends recently that have started to look into sobriety or slow down. Obviously, it's also because, like you said, we're not 21 anymore. I just turned 30 this past year. We're grown adults. I can't just go and eat fucking a 10 strip on a Tuesday for no reason. Granted, I don't
Yeah,
I don't want to either.
just,
But
just to shake the hands in the right scene.
right,
Yeah,
exactly, exactly. One hand washes the other. But
yeah,
um I really do think that, there's something within, we always find, I think historically, like whatever your parents are into, you're typically not gonna be into. So here we have this thing where now the upcoming crop is not as interested in drugs, both from a safety perspective and a self-preservation aspect, but also because like that's just not the cool thing to do anymore.
yeah.
So what is still left when you take that element out? Music is still there. So I actually think that it's going to preserve the purity and the sanctity of creation and creativity. I truthfully think that one of the biggest and best things that will happen and that is currently in infancy is the sobriety wave within the jam scene.
That could be helpful. I mean, it could.
I mean it has made my life so much better in numerous ways, but particularly within this context. I have found myself again within music. I have found music again because of getting sober. And that's not to say that anybody should or shouldn't do anything. You are all grown adults. Live your fucking lives how you see fit and do what serves you best. However, it is a wave. It is a changing reality of the times. I look at like the Dead was a counterculture. Phish was a cultural movement. Music in our scene doesn't have that cultural impact in this generation.
Well, because it already happened.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that next one is going to be the up and coming and the sober wave within music of people that want to see the music flourish, just like they did in the 60s. Granted, a lot of it was in psychedelic and induced, but it was about the music and the freedom and the experience and the collaboration and the creation. I feel like we are on the precipice of seeing that again in an entirely new way. And
That'd be cool.
you look at artists like, to take a step out of the jam scene, you look at like Post Malone, majorly cultural relevant artist, is doing stuff with Billy Strings, is playing at the Grand Ole Opry, but also is on Joe Rogan's podcast advocating for sobriety and weight loss and like Jelly Roll and all of these like big guys are talking about physical health, mental health, taking care of yourselves and what have you. Not all necessarily predicated on sobriety, but the wave of health, I truthfully believe, is going to keep not only keep our scene alive, I think it's going to completely change it for the better.
Yeah, man. I mean, I hope so. You can really get something out of music, whether you're on a head full of drugs or you're not.
Hmm.
I just think a lot of people don't put the work in to kind of cross that bridge. Hopefully, through this movement that's like building up, that could be exposed a little more. People could understand why they're going out.
Hmm.
And I don't know. I mean, if less people go out, I mean, the music can still live. It just needs to be scaled down, you know?
Sure.
Everyone doesn't need to have this like huge overhead. Do you ever listen to jazz?
Yeah.
Do you ever go see jazz?
Yeah, like Snarky Puppy and like some other like where when and where I can. There's a decent jazz club in Ned that I'll go to sometimes just to like kind of go hang out.
You ever notice that like like some of the world's greatest musicians will get on stage with zero production and
Yeah, they
just
need
like
nothing.
and they just play with like in a room this big with fucking no lights or barely
Hmm.
any sound, like not even a real sound guy, like nothing. They just get up there, they play. Their tickets prices are expensive, and you know that validates them traveling the world to play to 80 people in a room. But like it's just a testament of like the music can survive. It's
Hmm.
the party and the production and all the bells and whistles that our scene feels like are necessary to experience the music. That's what costs so much. That's why bands have to stop being bands because they owe fucking 40 grand for their light rig or their
Hmm.
trailer or they're paying everyone. By the time they're at the level you're seeing them, they're all the pay that could have been theirs to like set up for their life, they siphoned off for a light guy, a sound guy, a stage guy, a driver. Like
Yeah.
so like how are you supposed to keep making more money? Like if you looked at your job as any other trajectory. Those milestones where you would get that bump to then let's have another kid, honey. Let's get another dog. That
Right,
that
right,
that
right.
cushion money is going to a fucking trailer or a light guy or someone a video person that travels with the band. Like it's
Hmm.
going to another mouth to feed and it's not going to them. So they keep giving more blood to the band so they could be bigger and play bigger rooms and have cooler lights and all this shit that's kind of like fueled by partying when then like the jazz guys are just like I'm just a guy and I'm really good and I'm playing on this stage
Hmm.
and there's like 40 seats in front of me and the tickets are $60 and then you move on. You know, like music can survive and if people
Absolutely.
think about what they get out of music just from music aside from the party and the social experience and the culture that it's connected to, then because you know like I draw the jazz parallel because improvised music is birthed out of jazz and the jam scene, all these people that's where it's coming from, you know what I mean,
Hmm.
like the people that are really jamming and really fucking blowing your mind up there are harnessing that sort of attitude and giving it to us in the larger stage rock concert format, you know? So like if it scales down or scales up, it will keep surviving and like it's never going to go away. I've been convinced that drugs and jam bands will endure anything because people like jams and people need drugs. So it's always going to be
That's
this kind
true.
of snake eating its own tail, for
That's
better or
true.
worse.
Yeah.
You know, you could interact with that community as your best self, avoiding certain substances or vices, and others can live into their life to the fullest, however they
Hmm.
see fit. You know, but
Yeah. Death,
I don't.
taxes, and wooks are gonna wook.
Pretty much, man. I mean, and that
Yeah.
started from those cultural movements of the dead and fish. There's a
Hmm.
massive amount of people that are now fueling this community, you know, and we're talking about like when you're sitting with me, we're talking about like what 5% of that community lives on in our little traveling show. You know
Hmm.
what I mean?
Right.
So
Right.
there's it's a crazy thing and it would be really cool to see what you're predicting come to light. And even if it has to strip down a little bit and be more music centric to avoid the overhead costs of huge venues floating the bill for you to either make or break. I don't know. The business side of it is tough. And I'm sure you're well connected with a ton of people in the industry that are actually not even players, but they're just business guys. So you probably hear a lot of different angles to all of this. But
I do. But the reality of that also being, everybody has to be self-aware and again, accept where we're at, accept where you're at and the reality of the scene itself. But I want to touch on what you just said about, what you get from the music because we can share something really cool that happened for us within that. We're talking like give me a 300-person sweaty dance club over an amphitheater virtual. Well, granted, if the weather's nice and I want to be outside, but like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
give me that energy in that environment in perpetuity and I'd be ecstatic.
That's where I'm coming from.
Yeah, it's not everything has to be commoditized to the extent that it does. It is the reality of life. Everything's a business and we know that. But when we talk about, what we get out of music, I asked you earlier, what is music, how does music affect you as a listener versus as a player? We can talk about how music affects us as simply just as an attendant and as a fan, and how I said you're seeking something when you go to a show.
Hmm.
Last year, Squeaky Feet sells out Cervantes, other side. Who is the person that buys the last ticket to the show to make that a sellout? This guy.
This guy, the guy who was there at the beginning of it all.
It was such a cool moment for me personally because, like you said, we've talked about how you have the personal relationships, the personability of music, the friends, the family. That kind of stuff is a beautiful. That's something that not every scene and every type of music has. The
Yeah.
familial, the friend, the community. Getting to see you, not only getting, yeah, it was like a cool thing to have that last ticket to be like, I bought the ticket that made Kevin sell out Cervantes. But getting to see you do your thing in like a major, like Cervantes is a notable venue here. It's big stuff. It was an important pivotal moment.
Absolutely.
And 15 years later, after meeting and having the guy who played phish for me for the first time, getting to see you on that stage, not only did that provide me with, I'm not going to call it pride, but I'm going to call it a sense of like good favor and good fulfillment. Like I was so excited to see you get to that level.
Hell yeah.
Equally for me, musically, you guys went I think if I'm not mistaken, you played like a 40 or 50-minute jam. You played
Yeah,
for,
probably.
yeah, it was a long show and it was long. That kind of stuff where bands are like willing to go out there
I
and
think we played for
just,
3 hours straight, right?
yeah, you guys
Something.
played
Yeah, yeah.
forever. And I'm pretty sure one of the songs was like 50 minutes, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. That was a good show.
It was great, but
Yeah.
it gave me insight into this up and coming crop that I'm talking about, like the musical exploration, the willingness to go out there and try and just see what happens. That was a really real for me. I left that show fulfilled as a friend, fulfilled as a fan, and it also gave me insight and a forward looking into like if this is what bands are gonna do, this it will endure. You said music can survive, and it's not like
Yeah.
music is dying, but
No.
our little nest egg, it's going to happen that click is gonna happen, and people are gonna realize like, oh, this is the thing. Whether it be people that are influenced by jazz, people that are into whatever medium of music you come from, this is something where you can go to see pure creation and where you can go and see people laying themselves out on the line and expressing themselves with fear and without fear at the same time. You
Yeah.
talked about throughout this how there's so much stuff on your back and there's a lot, working within the music industry in today's day and age. We talked about the divisive nature of social media and kind of where the jam scene currently is. But if we kick that to the side, you are just the guy who wants to sit on his drum kit for 3 hours a day
Yeah.
and let life happen to you and let life happen through you through a pair of drumsticks. And I truthfully, not only do I commend you for that, but I genuinely believe it is people like you and things like that that will be the thing that endure. And I am excited to not only watch you continue to succeed, but watch Squeaky Feet grow, watch you grow as a person continually through your drum kit. Like I said, it is really, really wonderful to watch people find the thing that is an extension of who they are. And as long as I have known you, drums has been the thing. And I think that that's something really powerful that not only should you be excited that you found at an early age that has taken you to this place, but I also am excited for it to continuously, you will evolve as you evolve on the kit. And the drum kit is the thing that will continue to make you become whoever it is that you will be. And getting to watch that over the past 15 years, whether whether super close or distant or whatever the case is, I always, shared Flash Mountain flood videos on Facebook whenever they popped up. I always, we always kind of here and there just stayed in touch and paid attention. And now us being here, I've gotten to see you really play and I'm watching you really grow. And it is awesome to watch a friend from home do the thing and give back to the community that's given the both of us so much through our lives. And I truthfully believe that you guys are going to go places, you guys are making waves, and along and amidst this renaissance and this revival and things that are going to progress as we go on, I think you guys are going to do just fine. And you individually, I think, have a beautiful self awareness of yourself within the band, within your musical endeavors, within the industry that you're in. And I commend you for having a handle on the self awareness. And it has been wonderful to watch you become the guy that you are.
I appreciate that, man. Thanks for the support and just like having a place to talk shop. It feels good. I think to answer like your question of my mental health state and crisis, I think it all stems from the constant how to make it work.
Hmm.
Because, like you said, all I want to do is just sit around and drum. And that's why I like teaching for so long. I was always playing. I wasn't like on the road crushing shows and stuff, but I was just sitting around drumming and finding that light in others. And when the people that came into my lesson room showed that they could be someone who had that, I was able to really, really um, kind of like breathe life into that for them. Now, like I'm talking about working with someone over the course of 5 or 6 years through that time period of our lives where I became identified with this instrument. So being able to be there and be that person for someone was huge to me. But I always viewed teaching music as a tether to like sitting around and playing drums all day. It wasn't like the greatest job in the world, but I was able to sit around and fuck off and play drums all day, and that's all I want to do. So now like my mental state has been frazzled because like I'm always constantly thinking of like how am I going to make this work? And with the musical analytics in front of me as you build your own business, because Squeaky Feet is we're just dudes who love music, who are friends. And when we were learning music, people were on stage fucking sending it. So we get on stage and we fucking send it. Somewhere between then and now, the formula changed a little bit because it seemed like everyone who was kind of holding the torch just wanted to become bigger. And to become bigger, they felt like they needed to follow a different formula and implement that. And for a while, it was starting to pay off for them. And then it kind of plateaued. And then, like, they stepped away from where they were, got to this level, stayed there. And then COVID kind of just put everything on a pause. And now
Hmm.
we're just kind of like doing it over again. Um, so that I always found that interesting. And we're this resurgence of bands is fucking up there sending it because when we were becoming professional musicians, that's what people were doing. So like I was raised on that. And also I'm addicted to it.
Hmm.
I've I also think it's a bit of a disease to like
How
be able
so?
to not. It's like someone told me it was the jam band curse. Jerry Garcia used to talk about it too. Like when you're the type of musician that can't play the same thing the same way every time, that's like the jam band curse. It's like you're
Hmm.
doing the same song, but you're doing it differently every time, every day. There's something different about it. You're not choosing to do it differently. They're just you're just incapable of doing it the same way. So like
Interesting.
for you know what I mean? Like if you put me in some sort of cookie cutter tour gig, like with a country guy, I might be playing it differently. They might not want me to play their gig because I can't just play the same thing the way it is on their record every night. Like I have to do other shit. I'm not trying to be flashy or dress it up. It's just like the way my
It's
brain
how
works.
you
Like
play the drums.
I'm
Yeah.
just going. I am just going. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm today I'm going here or I'm going there. I don't, if you're living in that musical mindset of like always executing a plan and doing everything the same way, like to me, like you're not playing. Or I feel like I'm not playing. I feel like I'm sitting at a drum kit in a cage and like my back starts to hurt and I get tired and I need to do all this shit so I can build momentum and like keep existing for the amount of time I'm up there. It's like that kind of stuff that letting your mind wander and tangent and play a new thing, like that fresh thought helps me stay energized. And
I,
Jerry Garcia does talk about it. He's just like, I can't play the same thing ever in a row. Like I'm always playing things differently.
well, that's a beautiful way to bring it back to what we were talked about at the very beginning of how like my brain doesn't work that way. For me too, like learn like here's the no, here's the lesson. Now regurgitate it back on a piece of paper. Well, you're wrong. It's the same thing of like, cool, here's the music. Play it back this way. Nope, you didn't hit it this way.
No, yeah,
The
that's
brain, it's a formula that doesn't work. And I think that it's really great that that formula doesn't work for some of us because
you
it
could
is
break it. You
absolutely.
yeah, you could break it.
Yeah, and I think that it is truthfully what gives us the ability to create. It's what gives us, people talk about free will and other things. Whether everything's predetermined plans, we're in a simulation, whatever the fuck, those are the things that like, nope, I can't do that again. That was it.
Yeah.
That was it. Have it and let it go. Accept where you're at. Be in it. Be present. It's a way to look at life too. And with mental health, be present. Accept where you're at. Flow. Operate as needed. And then just and let it go. And
Yeah,
move into
exactly.
and move into the next thing. And the biggest thing for you, you said is, how do I make it work?
Yeah, that stresses me out, dude. It just does.
You have made it work through sitting on the kit in high school, through working with different bands, through teaching. Don't let go of those drumsticks because no matter how you make it work, you've made it work. There's that beautiful adage of, whenever somebody's like, oh, I can't do this, it's like, well, you've made it through everything that you said you couldn't make it through before. You've made it through every single thing on that drum kit. And I think it's a very beautiful thing for you to have the self awareness and the appreciation for that drum kit because it has been the extension that you have grown as a person because that drum kit has been there for you as you go through. And with all of these stresses and all of these worries and all of these fears, having a ground zero to come back to is a beautiful thing. And I hope that you continually find appreciation in that. But I can't tell you what's going to happen in the world. I don't fucking know. But what I can say is I truthfully see you guys on an upward trajectory And as much as you incur things and stresses and worries, just always be able to come back to your center. And if your center is on the drum kit, that's okay. If your center is at home with the dogs, with your girlfriend, that's okay too. I think that have a very, you're very analytical the way that I am. And sometimes we need to remember that it's okay to just let it go and be and enjoy the fact that we're just here. Like you said at the very beginning, I'm just happy to be here.
Yeah, I mean,
Sometimes with our lives, with our mental health, like I woke up today, I'm just fucking happy to be here.
yeah, I
Everything
know.
else
Yeah, it's a
is
good day.
everything else is going to come as it does. I woke up today. Everything else is just fucking icing. So, it's important for us to remember that. And I love your insight to the business side of music. I love your gratitude and awareness for the creative side of music and knowing what music means to you, watching and seeing how you've adapted to this lifestyle. Don't get me wrong, there's always going to be stress. There's always going to be things.
I'm just a stressful person. I think I'm a stress-inducing person. You know what I mean? Like,
It happens to the best of us, man. Life is
yeah,
fucking that's the reality. Mental health, music, anything. Life's fucking hard some days.
yeah. It's just,
But
I'm just like a pissed off Italian kid from Marlboro. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
it's like in our blood to be like
Yeah.
this. Um,
But you know what? We're the ones that can, just like you said, you can break it. We can break that.
yeah.
And sometimes it's about not letting things break us too. And I think, obviously outside perspective, I think you're doing a great job. I truthfully think you have a great, honest outlook. I think you do have, things that are valid in your stresses. However, I think you taking the step back to recognize where you're at, look at this upward trajectory, look at your ability to create with your friends, life out on the road, these wonderful experiences, your dogs, your house, your girlfriend, your friends, all the things. There are wonderful things in your life every day. And I can tell you that I'm proud of you, but it's way more important for you to tell yourself that you're proud of you.
True, man. And on that note, let's get hyped on the summer, dude.
Fuck yeah, man.
We have a festival season that I probably would have sold my kidney for 10 years ago coming up.
Absolutely.
I'm so stoked. I think like that this upcoming run of Squeaky Feet summer t show dates is like top notch. When we got in the van 3 years ago, we would have like killed for this. So huge thanks to our team and thanks to all the festivals giving us an opportunity because there are some real deal moments to make sick music in front of us. I'm so pumped for Northlands, dude. They just like gave
I
us
think it's the
the
best
the
fest. I think it's
lineup.
the best lineup of the summer.
Dude, it's kind of like a festival that got me into this shit.
Hmm.
That's like what it used to be like when we were getting involved in the jam world. Minus like throw Fish and the Biscuits on there, it's literally like
Yeah.
pinnacle jam festival. I'm really excited to see Soul Live at that festival. That was a band. For me, it's like almost all the bands that I used to be obsessed with in college and always go see. Lettuce, Soul Live, Cheese, Mo, Umphrey's. We're missing a couple, but like that's a lot of like top tier jam bands in one place.
Hmm.
And it's close to like New Hampshire's a rocks throw away from Boston. That's kind of where it all started for me. So there's a lot of people I will know at that festival that were there when I was just a young tyke tripping in the woods.
It's
So I'm excited to hit that festival for sure.
and you should be, man. It's that those are the kind of things, we talked about from jazz band to selling out Cervantes. You starting in Boston in school and now coming back to be on this bill. Life
Yeah,
has a beautiful way of bringing everything back full circle from where you were to where you are and wherever you will be. And That's why, we talked a lot about how there's decline and there's things. I have never been more excited for live music than I currently am. And that is not only because of the people, not only because of the friends and the experiences, but because of how much good fucking music is going to be out there this summer. And I cannot wait to see all of the Squeaky Feet shows I'm able to. I cannot wait to watch you just do exactly what you want to do and just fucking play drums.
Are you coming to Beanstalk?
I
You got to
am.
come to Beanstalk.
I
Oh,
am.
sick. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Fuck
Yeah,
yeah.
I'll be there for that.
Because the
I'm gonna
dog, your boys are playing.
Yeah,
The
dogs are
dog,
there. The
yeah.
beans are there. You got like it's also um you know, I'm starting to prioritize like where I want to be for the music. Because for a
Mhm.
lot of time it was like I did Bisco every year. I did this festival every year. I did that. I want to go where I think I'm going to have the best time because the music's going to be sick.
Oh yeah. I
And
think Scott does a great job with that festival. It's one
agreed.
of the festivals that's literally for the music. It's for Colorado,
Yeah.
and you're
My
gonna love
friend
it.
my friend Emily is running the sanitation. She's doing the whole green team for the festival. Turkey has become a good buddy of
Yeah.
mine.
Oh yeah, he's a Boulder guy.
Yeah, we've
Yeah.
hung out a couple times recently. We hung out at Winter Wondergrass. We were just together. He did like a liquid light show here at Boulder Dead Night. So been seeing him around and excited for that.
Have you been hitting Boulder Dead Night?
I've been to two so far. Just
Oh yeah.
just because it was something going on. I also the this old engine, like I wanted to go say what's up to him, and it was just like on a weeknight, so we were hanging and we went and stopped in and had some good time with that. But that's being in Boulder. I want to be part of the community. I want to be
Oh
part
yeah.
of the thing, like granted it's cool to get down to Denver. It's cool to, go, there's stuff in Fort Collins and what have you, but like I love it here. And I think that there is a really beautiful underlying community here that is wonderful to tap into.
I love Boulder, bro. Dude, the first Boulder Dead Night was like forever ago, but Danny set it up, and the idea was that like he was gonna it was like Flash Mountain Flood with Danny
Hmm.
on guitar. So we like finally did this huge hybrid band thing, and they like got some sort of truck stage in the parking. It was at Vision Quest, and they
Okay.
had like some sort of like truck bed stage. And we had two drummers, is me and Jeremiah, who used to be the drummer for Amora Mora.
Hmm.
And we set up all this shit on this little ass truck stage. Two drum sets, fucking I think our keys player was like on the floor aside from the truck bed. Danny was up there, Oles from Flash was playing bass, and everything was good. And then I was like I turned around, we started like jamming out. I think we played uh we went on some long-winded jam of probably like Shakedown Street or something.
Hmm.
And then I turn around and I just see that classic Boulder fucking pissed off thundercloud rolling in. And I was like, guys, we gotta rip this down. We are about to get fucked. And then like we concluded our jam, and Danny was like turned to me, he was like, really? Do you want to stop playing? I was like, trust me, this needs to stop right now. And then we just quickly like made an announcement. There was a huge crowd there because I think it was in the summer.
Hmm.
Um, and it was around the Dead and Co run. There was like definitely a lot of promo put into the first one where we made sure it was like a whole hang. And we pulled the plug and people got so fucking pissed off. And then within 2 seconds of pulling all the shit off that truck bed and getting it under an easy up, it was like the most lethal hailstorm that ever happened. And it just destroyed everything. It was so stressful. And the thought of us actually having continued to play and just being on stage caught in that, I was like, oh my God, we dodged a huge bullet. And then from then on, Boulder Dead Night has mainly been inside.
Yes. The ones that I have been to have been
Yeah,
insane.
yeah. And it's really fun. I love he gets all the vendors and people
Yeah.
at Boulder Dead Night are very chill. I've played a couple of those, and Boulder did have a rockin' scene when I moved up here. There was this place called the Lazy Dog,
Yeah.
and that's like where I played one of my first gigs out here. It was Coyotes in Denver and the Lazy Dog in Boulders where I kind of like first started playing. And man, that Lazy Dog place reminded me of like the Spot Underground in Providence or like the Wonder Bar. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just like that small club with good food, but Tuesdays were chill, Wednesdays were chill. There was open jams, and on the weekends, all the college kids would just show up and pack it out. So if you played there on the weekend, you'd have like this built-in crowd mixed
Hmm.
with like the Boulder music community. Boulder was really thriving at that time. There was a lot of local bands that were just like from Boulder,
Hmm.
and then the Lazy Dog got sold, and then they changed it up a little bit, and then from then there it got sold again, like for good during COVID. And that's like we've seen a lot of people come from Boulder and like disperse through Colorado or move
Yeah.
away. But that Boulder music community is still going strong, and it's a different place, and it's a special place to me. So
Yeah, man. I
that's why I'm
see.
excited to hit Creek Fest.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, dude, I see people at even in like the small music nights at like the Mountain Sun, Southern Sun, like
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
Fox, Boulder, like there are people that are just here to go see music
yeah,
and not worry about anything else. And it's a beautiful place. Don't get me wrong, Boulder in general is wonderful and I'm stoked that I live here, but there's a beautiful music scene here in town and I'm happy not only for that to be home base but for how much wonderful shit is coming to Colorado in the coming months. As
yeah.
usual, but
It
you
gets
know,
busy out here. Yeah, it gets
yeah,
busy.
it
Um,
sure does.
Sick.
Definitely some cool stuff coming up that I'm excited for, but also I'm just dude, I'm just excited for life, man. I'm just happy. Literally, truthfully, I'm just happy to be here.
Dude, you're looking great, man. I gotta hire you as my health coach.
Dude, you tell me when and where. I got it.
Yeah.
Happily.
I've been really trying to dial that in recently, just kind of like get back in touch with my body and like get on a more strict
Hmm.
diet and gym routine. It seems to be a never-ending head scratcher, but I try
How do you
different
make it
things
work,
and
right?
yeah, yeah, I just try different things and always appreciate yourself for showing up. Like if you went to do something physical, good job. Don't
Hmm.
harp on what you're doing there, just go do it, come back. If you avoided a bunch of processed foods and sugary shit, good job.
Yep.
Try to do it again.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. I did a
until
whole
it
the
sticks.
Yeah, the last episode that I did was I did a whole solo episode just all about physical health within mental health and how physical health it impacts how and what you eat and how you take care of yourself affects everything you do. It affects how
Big
you
time.
sleep, it affects your mood, it affects your energy, it affects your relationships. It feels good to feel good, and you have to take care of your body so that it can take care of you. And
Yeah.
when you're living a lifestyle that you are, it's hard. I have so like the guys and dogs are prioritizing that stuff now. And like I when I had Brownie on, he was like, dude, when like later this year when I'm back like doing my health thing, like we're gonna touch base again. And I have friends that I make health plans for and diet plans and like I check in weekly just because I can. I would never like be like a personal fucking trainer because fuck that. But I like to work out on my own and but health is wealth, dude. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, so starting to find that out. It's
Yeah.
interesting. There's a lot of different methodologies and different research you could come across, and it all affects your body differently. So it's
Hmm.
hard to kind of know exactly which route to pursue without a little bit of guidance. So
It's
that's
also
definitely,
trial and error.
yeah, it takes time, it takes effort,
Absolutely.
but there is
Yeah,
an
man.
art to learning how to live good while feeling shitty. And I
For
think the
sure,
road
for sure.
road will teach you that. The road will teach you that. It will throw you out there and you have to make all these obligations happen on 10% energy or
Right.
headspace. Like people are there for you and you have to be there for them. And it doesn't matter if you didn't sleep or eat. It doesn't matter if all hell's breaking loose back at home or your job's on fire, like you need to somehow show up and you need to be that Instagram reel for the
Yeah,
people that
right,
showed up for you because
right,
that's
right.
why they're there. They don't want to think of the reality that like you're just some dude who maybe had a shitty day, who hasn't eaten in 24 hours and like probably wants to go to sleep. Now get on that stage and fucking drum for me.
Right. It's like that meme with the dog in the kitchen that's on fire with the coffee. Just like, this is fine.
I have a picture of that in the kitchen. Yeah.
Of course you do.
Yeah, yeah, that's what it's like. So
Oh
there's
man.
an art to learn. If you could do that, you could probably figure out how to dial it in and feel good and eat good and do yourself a service.
I couldn't agree more. And yeah, man, truthfully, like I talked about it again to bring up the conversation I had with Kunj, man, like physical health, mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, it's all health. And our health is the most important thing that we have in our life. Um, and with that, I always like to come to these things toward the end. You know, I appreciate the fact that you love having an outlet to talk to. It's the whole reason I created this podcast and I'm trying to build this platform is to give people a space to talk and divulge because there's wonderful organizations like Backline and there's all these, people that talk about mental health and all this stuff, but not everybody has a therapist. Not everybody has a girlfriend that they can talk to. Not everybody wants to talk. So I appreciate your willingness to do so, and I'm also grateful that you enjoy that there's a platform to do it. And because of that, here I what I want to do is just give you complete open floor to say anything that you want. This could be to the music industry, your bandmates, your friends, your fans, anybody. If there is one thing that Kevin would want to tell the world, what would that be?
Well, I think I'm just grateful for all the people that love and support me and allow me to uh, to be me and go out of their way to make time for me. Lately, I feel like I've been having a hard time feeling or letting that like sink in and actually feel welcome and wanted, whether it's at work or my own relationships or in the band or at a show. Something inside of me has been making me feel like I shouldn't be around there or I'm like weighing on someone, but that's not true. And there's so many people that go out of their way to embrace me, and I'm grateful for that. And I wouldn't be able to be me without all of you.
I think that is a beautiful message. And I think you may be one of the few, if not only, people that didn't try to advocate to or give. You use that time to say thank you to other people. And I could not love that more if I tried. And I sincerely, dude, thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you for your willingness to be vulnerable, to divulge, to talk honestly about your views and your opinions on the music industry, on the road, on all the things and be forthcoming about your own stresses and your own worries because these are the conversations that we can provide to help drive this conversation forward. And these are the things that will not only help us stay connected, but help other people feel like they're not alone and other people feel like they have a place to go. And from the personal side, it has been wonderful to spend this time with you. It's been wonderful to know you for the past 15 years and watch your trajectory. And I could not, I know I said before, like it's better for you to be proud of you, but sincerely, I could not be more proud watching a friend from home do exactly what he was meant to do, figure it out, make it happen. And I am so excited to continue to watch you grow and excited to see Squeaky Feet become whatever it will. And I'm always in your corner, and I am excited to be a fan, be a friend, and just continue to watch you become whoever it is you will be.
Thanks. I love that. I appreciate you, man. Seriously.
Absolutely, my dude. So with that, guys, that's gonna bring us to another close. I always try to kind of close these with something really nice to say, and basically, from both Kevin and myself, if you're watching this, if you took the time, and even if you didn't, we believe in you, we love you, and wherever you go in life, whatever stresses you incur, whatever you have going on in your life, be willing to be vulnerable, accept where you're at, and some days wake up and just be happy to be there because that is the thing that will get you through. And find your thing, find your drum kit that will help you become whoever it is that you're supposed to be. So, again, Kev, I love you. I'm so stoked we did this. I appreciate the time. And, guys, we'll catch you in the next episode. And until then, take care and be well.